Welcome to Products on Thursday training for Thursday, July the 17th. And we have a really, I think this is Chelsea's first presentation, as I recall. And Chelsea Ingle is presenting on behalf of, I guess we're going to call it Trustone Health or Experior Health or Empire Health, whatever. Anyways, it's that's what we're using today. And they're our number one travel insurer for both visitors to Canada and traveling Canadians. Tremendous service, tremendous opportunities, um, and they pay claims too. Can you imagine? So that's really great, and they work really hard with everybody to pay claims. So remember, before I turn it over to Chelsea, please turn your camera on if you want CE credits. If you don't want CE credits, that's okay. You can leave your camera off. Okay, Chelsea, my kids are all yours.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Sheldon. It is nice to meet everyone today. I have a little bit of a presentation that I'm going to share around pre-existing conditions and claims. And then if anybody has any questions at any time, please feel free to stop me and ask them. And I will also hold a question period at the end of the presentation. Okay, I'm just going to share my screen so we can see the presentation. So like Sheldon said, we are Trustone Health, but we are also Empire Health, and we are also Experior Health. And if someone could just let me know if they can see my presentation or
Nothing.
if it is, oh,
Here it comes.
Yep,
there
there it
we
is.
go.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Yes.
perfect. If we experience any more technical difficulties, I do apologize. But what I wanted to talk about today with everyone is um, around what is a pre-existing condition, and the claims process around pre-existing conditions. So when it comes to travel insurance, but in particular our travel insurance product, we start by, so before we can even get to the pre-existing conditions, we start with eligibility. So there, you always want to make sure that your client is eligible in order to purchase the travel insurance policy. And this is applicable for pre-existing condition policies, but also no pre-ex policies. And the difference between a no pre-existing condition policy and a pre-existing condition policy is that with the pre-existing condition policy, the policy has been specifically underwritten to cover any medical instances or things that might appear that would be related to the pre-existing condition. So, for example, diabetes. If someone wanted coverage for a pre-existing condition for diabetes, we would have to underwrite it in the policy to make sure that it was covered. With a non-pre-existing condition policy, um, pre-existing conditions and anything related to them are not covered, but it does cover emergency medical, accident, and sudden sickness. So eligibility is quite important. And for us, our medical questionnaire and our application, I've heard this many times, it is one of the lengthier applications out there on the market. But we do this in order to underwrite the risk of the pre-existing conditions, to be able to know that we could cover them if anything were to happen with a claim. So for our eligibility, there's three portions. To be eligible for coverage under the contract as of the effective date of the policy, so when the policy starts, a person insured must meet all the eligibility requirements. The second portion of this is a person insured is not eligible for coverage under the contract as of the effective date if any of the following applies to a person insured, even if it is disclosed on the application. And then third, we have a declaration of applicant or person insured, and I will go through all these steps with you as well. With our policies, the clients need to be eligible at the effective or the start date of the policy. It is not based on the purchase date of the policy. Sometimes they are the same. But if you were to say purchase a policy that was to become effective 6 months from now, we would just want to make sure that these eligibility requirements apply to them when the policy starts. So our first eligibility question here. Um, so as of the effective date, there is a few things that the client needs to essentially fit within the mold for this eligibility. So specifically, this is in regards to our Visitor to Canada plans. The eligibility is similar, but not the exact same for our travel outside of Canada plans. So for our Visitor to Canada plans, um, you cannot be eligible for benefits under a GHIP or a government insurance plan. You must be a visitor to Canada, be a Canadian citizen or permanent resident returning to reside in Canada. There is an age limit, so you must be 15 days old and less than 90 years of age. And then we get a little bit into the age of the insured on the policy document. So if you're under the age of 18 in Quebec or under the age of 16 in Canada. Um, and then be insurable in accordance with our then current underwriting rules. With the Visitor to Canada plan, this also applies to Canadian expats. So if someone has been outside of Canada for more than 6 months, typically their government health insurance plan will be discontinued. Oh, hi. I see a hand up.
Yes, it's me. Can you please put your presentation in a slide mode? In that way, you
Oh,
know,
yes.
yeah, please.
Yes, of
Thank you.
course. Give me 1 second.
Here's the slide mode here.
Let me present our view.
Go from current slide.
Or hit F5.
It's good there.
Is this good or
Yeah, that's
Yes.
good.
is better? Okay. Okay, thank you. So yes, when it comes to pre-existing conditions and travel insurance, you want to make sure that your clients meet all the eligibility requirements first. And like I said, there are 3 sections to it. So there are essentially, they need to meet these requirements to be eligible for coverage under the contract. And then we get even a little bit more specific. So we have about eight to 9 points here. Of essentially a person insured is not eligible for coverage if on the effective date any of the below conditions or pre-existing conditions apply. So for example, if they have received an organ transplant, they are not eligible for our policy. In the 6 months prior to the effective date, if they've been hospitalized for a sickness. So all of these points, it is very important that you either read this to your client or send them the eligibility requirements and make sure that they fit within the eligibility. Because If a person does not meet eligibility, the contract will be null and void. And we do not want that to happen if we are insuring someone for health. So it is really important that they meet the eligibility requirements. If you ever have any questions around them, please let me know. And we can go from there. I know it is a bit lengthy, but we do this to undercut the risk, and then we're able to keep our prices a bit lower. And the third section of the eligibility requirements is just simply a declaration that based on the requirements, the insured is eligible to purchase the product. And the approval will be based on the declaration. So if anyone here has had access to our portal before, you might be familiar with the way that the application works. But there are little boxes that you have to check. So I would just suggest that you read this to your client, especially if you're issuing them a pre-existing condition coverage. You want to disclose every possible thing that you can to protect yourself and your client. Because when it comes to claims, the claims department is going to read the contract and the eligibility kind of word of law. So sometimes they do get claims wrong, and we can always appeal them. But if a client is not eligible to purchase the product and it's found out at time of claim, it will be denied, as they were never eligible to purchase the product. So we want to make sure that they are eligible first and foremost.
Chelsea, there is a question in the in the chat, and which leads me to another question. Is pre-existing for asthma covered?
It is. It is not covered within our medical questionnaire. We do have a question that talks about lung conditions, but asthma is excluded. So in this particular case with asthma, we would put it in the notes section, but I have never encountered an issue with asthma being covered.
Right. So what you're saying is that if there's a question that's not specifically asked in the pre-existing conditions questionnaire, they still should disclose that condition, or they don't have to.
No, I would suggest still disclosing the condition, even if it is not captured in the medical questionnaire.
Okay.
We do have a little notes section at the bottom, and what I always tell people is to put any and all relevant information in there, just to make sure that it's all captured. I review the notes sections of all our applications every single week. If I ever see an error or something that concerns me, I will reach out to you and we will have a discussion around it. Just because I want your clients to be covered. If it comes to claims, I want that to be able to be paid to the client as the coverage provides. So yes, always disclose all the information possible, either in the medical questionnaire or in the notes section. So now we're going to get a little bit into pre-existing conditions. So what is a pre-existing condition? A pre-existing condition is a medical or physical condition, symptoms, illness, or disease, whether diagnosed or not, for which treatment has been received or taken, or which exhibited signs or symptoms at any time preceding your effective date and includes a medically recognized complication or reoccurrence of a medical condition, but does not include a minor ailment. Or simply, a pre-existing condition is a ongoing condition. It is not the same as a minor ailment. And as an example for a minor ailment, what I'm going to use as my example is the flu. So if somebody comes down with a cold or a flu, that is not considered a pre-existing condition because typically it is not an ongoing condition. Another definition for a pre-existing condition is a health issue or medical condition that a person had before their health insurance coverage started. And then a condition is defined as generally as any disease, illness, or injury, or abnormal physiological state that affects the structure or function of the body or mind. So a pre-existing condition doesn't necessarily mean that it has been diagnosed. But what you want to consider is if the client is experiencing signs and symptoms of any condition before the effective date of their policy, um, we if unless it is a minor ailment, we would consider that a pre-existing condition. So you also want to ask your client if, they expect to be in good health before the effective date of the policy. Um, because we do have a stipulation in the policy under the eligibility requirements, which I will just go back to really quickly. Is that they cannot be experiencing new or undiagnosed signs or symptoms of a sickness for which they reasonably expect may require treatment while the contract is in force. Or otherwise have a reasonably foreseeable need for treatment while the contract is in force. Her policy is strictly for emergency medical accident or sickness. So any unforeseen circumstances, what the policy is not for is to treat ongoing or current signs or symptoms of a sickness. Now, with our pre-existing conditions, we have, like I said, a lengthy medical questionnaire that covers everything from high blood pressure to congestive heart failure.
Hey, Chelsea, sorry to interrupt you. Did I have a question?
Oh, yes. Yeah, of course. Rajwinder?
Yeah, hi, Chelsea. Yeah, my question is, one of the client, they tell me the situation where they are inviting on a super visa their
Mhm.
parents, and the parents like they undergo medical from India, and they're like the doctors have a doubt. Her age was 70 years old,
Okay.
and they did an X-ray, and they have a doubt, so they did the TB test,
Mm-hmm.
and the result came which is inactive tb, but still in Canada they have to undergo, even for inactive tb it will be under surveillance. So in that situation I didn't find any anything if it is a pre-existing condition, because that person doesn't have any issue. It's just the medical, they gone through medical exam in India for a Canadian super visa, and they shows inactive TB. So there was nothing in there. It was negative. So in that situation, do I have to give them pre-existing or
So you do not have to give them pre-existing condition coverage
okay?
unless you would like anything related to that pre-existing condition to be covered. Under our no pre-existing policy, the anything related to pre-existing conditions will not be covered if it comes to time of claim. It will strictly be for accident, medical, and sudden sickness.
Yeah.
Um, with, in particular, inactive TB,
Mhm.
it is a pre-existing condition because while it is marked as inactive,
Yeah.
there is the chance that it could become active again.
But that parent, they told me like they didn't have any problem in the past even. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know why the medical exam they did that medical exam, because in India they just did the medical exam for super visa.
Mm-hmm.
So they said it's inactive, but it wasn't active before, even in the past. That person doesn't have any cold congestion, no any problems with the heart, nothing.
Um,
So, but
yes.
still, after when the super visa came, they give them a form like they have to undergo a medical surveillance in Canada, which involves a public health authority. Like they have to go to the doctor for the checkup within that time frame. So
Mhm.
it will be covered under insurance if they got some charges they have to pay.
So in particular, are you asking if the medical checkup that is mandated as necessary by the government, if that would be covered?
Yeah.
Um, it would not be covered.
Okay.
If we put inactive TB on the pre-existing condition coverage, and it wouldn't be captured in the medical questionnaire, so we would need to put it in the notes.
Okay.
If they had a medical event,
Mm-hmm.
and they found out that it was related to the inactive TB,
Okay.
then they would be able to make a claim
Okay.
and seek coverage for that. But unfortunately, with our policy, even if it is a pre-existing condition policy, there is no benefit within to cover medical checkup.
Okay. Even if I give them pre-existing, even at that time,
Yes.
okay, then it will be covered.
Versus emergency.
Yes. So it's that would be considered elective,
Okay.
an elective procedure, which is not a benefit of the policy,
Okay.
versus a medical emergency.
Okay.
So if there was a medical emergency related to the inactive TB,
Mhm.
that would be a different story. But the
Okay.
medical checkup would fall under an elective, which would not be covered under the benefits.
Okay. Got it. Thank you so much. Yeah.
No
For
problem.
clarification. Yeah. Thanks.
Rajendra, that was a great question, but let's hold our questions till the end so that Chelsea can get through her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a great question. We are, that is a very hot topic right now, actually. We are getting more and more questions around tuberculosis. So very, very good question. But yes, just to get back to what exactly a pre-existing condition is, simply put, it's an ongoing condition, whether or not they've been diagnosed with it. And a condition is defined as essentially something that affects the structure or the function of the body or mind, but it is separate and apart from a minor ailment. So a good way to know the difference is if if it is undiagnosed, if they have been dealing with this condition on an ongoing basis. And I would say for more than a month. Sometimes minor illnesses can last up to a month. So if anything is ongoing persistently, we would consider that a pre-existing condition. So a great example of this is we recently had a case where someone was admitted for a cardiovascular event. And even though they had a pre-existing condition policy and it was underwritten within the policy, because they were experiencing signs and symptoms before the effective date of the policy, the claim was denied. As per the eligibility requirements, you can't be experiencing new or undiagnosed signs and symptoms before the effective date of the policy. So when you are thinking about pre-existing condition coverage or just eligibility in general, you just want to know the current health of your client, and just have a long conversation with them. You don't need medical records or anything like that, but you just need to let them know that it is important to disclose as much information as possible. Because if you do not disclose everything, it will be seen by the claims department as material misrepresentation, and the claim will automatically be denied based on that fact. So we want to be as honest and forthright as possible. And if you are ever unsure if a condition is considered a pre-existing condition or there might be a problem around it, I am more than happy to have specific conversations around this. Now, when it comes to, and the definition of pre-existing condition, this doesn't just apply to our specific policy. This does apply just in general knowledge about what a pre-existing condition is, what insurance considers that it is, and how it can affect the insured at the time of claims. And now, when it specifically comes to our policies, there are certain combinations of conditions that we will not cover because we have determined that the risk is too high. And one of these combinations of conditions is a combination of heart disease and a combination of diabetes. That combination together, because it is incredibly hard on the body, we will not cover it. I do know that other travel insurance companies will. And I am always happy to recommend those to you because I would like to see that your client is getting the best coverage possible. And if that is not with us, that is okay. I just want to make sure that everyone feels knowledgeable and that they understand the responsibility to disclose when it comes to pre-existing conditions, and how if you do not disclose properly, how it can affect your client at the time of claims. Now, not every client is going to be 100% honest, and you cannot avoid that. So my suggestion to you would be to gather as much information as possible, capture it in the medical questionnaire, and then anything that is not captured in the medical questionnaire, put it in the notes, because you are protecting yourself. If unfortunately a claim is denied, you can say that to the best of your knowledge or the best of your ability, you try to protect your client as much as possible. Okay, and now when it comes to claims, most claims, and when it comes to pre-existing conditions, if things have been appropriately disclosed and appropriately underwritten, most emergency, accident, or sudden sickness will be covered underneath the policy benefits. But just know that we do not cover elective medical treatments. We do not cover cosmetic surgery or general checkups. We are strictly emergency accident and sudden sickness health insurance. And I would keep that in your head if you are dealing with our products. And today in particular, I am focusing a bit more on visitor to Canada, but I am happy to go into travel outside of Canada if we have any people who are interested in the meeting. I will check the chat.
Chelsea, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, of course.
So, my sister was in Japan about month ago, and she broke her wrist.
Mhm.
She had insurance. She only wanted to do the insurance that her credit card had, okay?
Mhm.
But in this situation in Japan, okay, the hospitals there, I guess they are similar to Canada, just a little bit worse in the way they work on the system. They
Okay.
didn't want to take care of foreigners. She had to go to a private hospital in another city run by some Vietnamese doctors, okay? I don't know if
Okay.
it's specific situation about Japan and if you guys know anything about that,
Hmm.
but it was a complete denial of service. So the reason why I'm asking you, I remember back a few years ago, one of my friends, colleagues had a person in Panama with a problem, and I believe they had a Manulife policy, and they were extremely good in solving the problem, in getting in contact with hospitals and finding solutions. How good is for travelers outside of Canada your company? Like if someone is in trouble, let's use
Mhm.
this case, Japan. Is there a number where your company will really help out those people to find a solution right there? Because that was very inhumane. So I want to know, what does your company does for people in trouble?
Yes, of course. So, when it comes to medical emergencies, I mean, the first thing that I always say to people is seek medical treatment. And then once you are okay or your loved ones are okay, then we can alert the claims department. When it came to this situation in Japan, did they deny medical services kind of right off the bat?
Oh yeah, he was really bad. She told me like she's not going back to Japan. So I don't know
Oh,
if, obviously this is nothing that the insurance company can control, but since you sell and all the insurance companies sell so much volume, and sometimes, there are these alerts of, do not go to this country or this other country. I don't know if there is anything that can be done by all these travel insurance companies to find out if that is the real situation, because Canadians getting denied service, obviously she had to pay out of her own pocket, and then she's claiming with this other company, but it was a
mhm.
complete denial, and then this other clinic that was a private clinic told her, you know what, it's better that you just go back to Canada and get your surgery over there. So I don't know the reason why I ask you. I know some insurance companies have some type of more advanced concierge service, supposedly, that if you get in trouble, they tell you, okay, just go to this hospital or go over here and there. So I don't know how it's with your company.
Yes, so since we became Trustone Health, we are working with a new claims department called Trident. So they do have a
Mm-hmm.
24-hour support line.
Mm-hmm.
And in my experience with that, if the client called them, they would try to help as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I also, I guess, on just a personal basis, I have a lot of confidence in Trident as a claims management company because I know through my father, the gentleman who runs the claims department, Magdi. And he is quite experienced, and I know they will try to help as much as possible. In this case, you said it was a broken wrist, correct?
Mhm.
Um, I'm so sorry that that happened. That sounds like a terrible experience.
Yeah.
But I know if that happened, they would try to find one, a hospital that would treat them.
Okay, thank you. That way, when someone asks me again,
Yeah.
um, because it's becoming a very popular destination, Japan, then we can maybe say, okay, so there is this number from Trident if you get in trouble. But, it was just something that I wanted to ask you.
Yes, and I think in the case, I'm a little surprised that a broken wrist was denied
Yeah, me too. She
coverage.
just came here and she just had to get surgery and they had to break the bones again and everything. But anyway,
Oh well,
that was quite bad. I don't know.
I I know in situations where it would be more cost effective to come back to Canada to get certain procedures done, that might be raised as an option. Um, but they would and should still absolutely receive medical care in the moment and then be able to go down that path if a larger procedure is required. But
Thank you so much. I don't want to take
yeah,
all your
no,
time. I just wanted to know if you had some type of 1-800 number where people are not lost. Otherwise, they're going to end up calling us across the world for things. Thank you.
no, no, of course we do. And if there is any issue with that, you can call me and I will call the claims department.
Thank you so much.
Not a problem. Um, does and Sheldon, please correct me if I'm wrong here, but is our time until 3 o'clock today?
That's correct.
Okay, perfect. So I will then open the floor for questions. Um, I know we had so I am looking through the chat right now.
So
Um,
I can weigh in on the last question. I wasn't sure if you were finished your presentation. I had a situation myself. I was in Vienna, and I tore the ligaments in my ankle.
mhm.
So I went to the hospital, and of course I was a bit nervous because Zadativ was speaking with his accent, and so I was a bit nervous. But anyways, uh, sort of humor there.
Arnold
So-
Schwarzenegger accent.
what's that?
Arnold Schwarzenegger accent, right?
Yeah, exactly. Schwarzenegger accent. Yeah. So, anyways, they put me in a cast, and he says, "Here we would do surgery on you immediately, but we know that in Switzerland and in Canada, where you're from, for this type of injury, you don't do surgery. So we're recommending that you go back to Canada and let them do it there if they're going to do it. But he says likely that won't happen because that's just the way it is in Canada. They don't do surgery on 75% tears." And sure enough, I went back to Canada, and the next day went into emergency, and they said, "No, we're not operating. We don't do this." So there was a situation, I think, where the hospital made the right decision by not performing a surgery, because that's not the procedure that happens in Canada. And I don't think it was they were trying to get away from performing a surgery that they thought they couldn't make a claim on. So it was just a matter of, why put this guy through it? Just put him in a cast, and it was not a complete cast because I was going on the plane, of course, and I was able to continue my journey without an interruption. So I think sometimes when that happens, it's really really good, and you don't have to worry about it because the hospitals generally throughout the world will look after you. They're not as money grubbing as they might be in the United States.
Thank you for
Yes.
sharing, Sheldon. Thank you for sharing.
Pleasure.
Um, and then yes, thank you, Sheldon. That was a great story. Um,
My wife didn't think so, by the way, because she had to push me around in a wheelchair for the balance of the vacation. And if you know Vienna and Budapest, it's mostly cobblestones. So here she's pushing around a 250 pound guy in a wheelchair on cobblestones. She made me let her go back the next year for another vacation.
Fair enough. Well, you owed her, I think. And then just to address some of the questions in the chat, we do offer travel insurance to all countries that there is no travel restriction on. So if there is a red travel restriction on the country on the Government of Canada website, we will not offer coverage to those locations. And we will not offer coverage in a country where there is an ongoing war taking place. And we offer travel outside of Canada, travel insurance, of course, to Canadian residents, but we also offer it to visitors to Canada up to 200,000 as long as they are present in Canada at the time of purchase. And then free travel insurance given by credit card. Travel insurance given by credit card. Yeah, so I know a little bit about this. I know with typically with credit cards, typically with credit cards, I know they will offer up to 30 or 60 days coverage built into the credit card. I know it does differ a bit between companies. And typically, I know at least with my bank, with RBC, typically things that are included with credit card travel insurance coverage are things like flight delays, lost baggage, anything around that is typically covered. And then typically it is also no pre-ex policies unless you get a particular condition covered by them. And then, yes, so our product is only in Canada, unfortunately not in the US at this time. You can buy coverage to be covered in the US, but it is a Canadian product. So specifically, we cannot do post-departure sales unless you already have an existing policy with us, in which we could do a top-up. Another good point for the free automatic credit card travel insurance is if you ever have it, say only 30 days, and you are gone longer than that, we can issue what is called a top-up or a continuation of insurance, and it essentially extends the policy for a greater amount of time, as long as we don't want a gap in coverage. And then, yes, so the difference between the association and the normal plan, that is a great question because all of you have access to a discounted premium rate under the association plan. So the main difference between the two plans, and it's a slight difference, it's the same product, but with the standard plan, we offered health coverage on the flight to Canada. And then we also cover flight coverage on the way back to the home country for a visitor to Canada. With the association plan, we cover flights to Canada, but the flight home back to your country of residence is not covered under the association plan. I believe you do need to opt in to select travel arrangements and purchases by the credit card. Typically, I know there is a way to opt in on it, but I do believe you need to let them know your departure date. I don't believe it's all of them are a little bit different. And then with how to prove the stability period. Stability is essentially that there have been no changes in medication, no changes in health, no changes in signs and symptoms. So if someone had a pre-existing condition and they were prescribed a new medication, that would essentially reset the stability of the condition. And how to prove it. Um, Essentially medical records and or prescriptions around the pre-existing condition. The only time you would really have to prove it is at the time of claims, and that is typically if it is a large claim, if stability comes into play. If we forget. So if you, yes, if you forgot to mention blood pressure, if there's a claim related due to blood pressure and it was not disclosed, the claim would be denied. But if you ever find out that that happens, call me. We will issue a new policy covering the conditions and make sure there is no gap in coverage. So if you ever find out there's a condition that you weren't aware of, give me a call and we will figure it out. So with mononyms, essentially, you put what is on their passport or their legal documents on the insurance policy. If it is the same first and same last name, that is okay. If they also do not have a legal last name, we can also leave that space blank.
I think we have a couple of hands up.
Yes, I will go with the hands. Maybe Teresita.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you so much, Chelsea and Sheldon. I'm imagining if with this presentation and training, if the questionnaire is also presented here for us to have familiarity of the form, I think that would help me so much to market this very important and critical product services that our community or our people needs to understand and to know and to take advantage while they're still in good health.
Okay, what I can do is I will send my presentation, and Sheldon, please let me know if this is okay. If I send my presentation to you, or if you can provide me with contact info for everyone in this session, I will send you the presentation, including the medical questionnaire, and also some things in relation to stability and travel outside of Canada as well.
Perfect. Well, I'll be sending you the entire list anyways.
Okay.
Great.
Perfect.
Thanks,
Thank you so
Teresita.
much, Jay.
And I think we have Marilyn.
Yes, hi.
Hey.
I'm wondering, I have my contract accepted by last January,
Mhm.
and this week I try make a quote for a client,
Mhm.
and I don't see I don't see advisor portal. I cannot make my quotation. So I send an email this begin this week, but I
Mhm.
still have no answer. So
Okay.
that's why I'm wondering how I can go to the portal and make the code for my client.
Marlene, do you want to put your phone number in the chat and I will give you a call after the meeting?
Yes, for sure.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
not a problem.
Okay. And then we're going to, so Chantel's already here, but we're going to give Susan an opportunity. This will be our last question for Chelsea.
Chelsea, thank you for the presentation. I'm just wondering what your maximum issue age is for Canadians traveling, and also what the maximum length of coverage would be. I'm specifically looking at the snowbird market,
Mhm.
and a lot of them over 75 are running it. They can't get travel insurance, right?
No, that is right. 89
Okay.
for pre-existing condition coverage, and as old as 15 days.
As young as 15 days.
Oh, sorry. Yes, as young as 15 days. Sorry. Thank you. No
Okay,
wonder I
so
was
issue
getting it
age is
confused.
up to 89.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then how long, like, can they get 6 months of coverage?
They can get 6 months of coverage. They can get up to a year of coverage.
Okay, perfect. Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Not a problem. And as well, we have options for multi-trip coverage. So if they wanted to take multiple trips within a year, we could issue them coverage for all of those trips within 1 calendar year.
The one that's been coming up for me, like I say, because I know a lot of snowbirds that travel to Mexico for they go for the winter, right?
Mhm.
And when they're getting up there a little bit, they're just, a lot of companies just don't offer it at all once they're up there. So age 89, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Great.
So there's still hope
Thank
for
you.
me. There's still hope for me.
You can go somewhere, Sheldon.
Thank you. Thanks, Chelsea. Really appreciate your presentation today and look forward to Trustone Health being our number one carrier, and that's phenomenal. And that's because it's a commitment that your dad and you've made to provide top quality service, etc. I've always had interesting conversations with him regarding some of my clients, putting him in awkward positions, but we always manage to resolve issues. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And now I'm going to end this part of the recording up here.